Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My unparalleled co-host is Laura Blackwell. And I hope you're all healthy and safe and taking care of yourselves and your loved ones in what is hopefully the waning weeks and months of the pandemic. We started Story Hour, we're just about into year 3, so just about a little over 2 years ago, during the intense, disquieting lockdown phase, with the intention really of creating a space where just my colleagues and I could share our writing. And the intention was kind of a pretty small, intimate sort of deal, just us reading to each other. And it just grew and grew and grew. And by this time, we've had probably a couple hundred authors through Story Hour. And it's been going strong pretty much week after week, the only exception being a week between Christmas and New Year's. So here we are again. The way this works is Story Hour turns to a very old, very time-honored form of entertainment, which is folks sitting around the fire telling lies to each other. So every week, we have 2 authors, about 30 minutes each, doing exactly that. And tonight, excuse me, tonight we're very happy to have Mina Li, a repeat offender, as we like to call returning authors, and my wonderful co-host, Laura Blackwell. And it's our custom to ask authors to indicate a worthy cause for us to call your attention to, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to help, to do that. So Laura is reading tonight for Planned Parenthood. We all know about Planned Parenthood, www.plannedparenthood.org. This organization does so much for all of us. They deliver vital reproductive health care, sex education, and information to millions of people worldwide. Their stated mission is to ensure that all people have access to the care and resources they need to make informed decisions about their bodies, their lives, and their futures. Especially now, they're really under fire. So if you're in a position to be able to help, please do so. Mina Li is reading tonight for the Michigan Taiwanese American Organization. Started in 2002, so it's been around for 20 years, and their members are mainly immigrants from Taiwan. The objective of this organization is to promote cultural exchange between Michigan residents and Taiwanese Americans through seminars and concerts. So the URL is mitaiaa.weebly.com. That's mitaiaa.weebly.com. So please check it out. We're going to start tonight with Laura. Laura Blackwell is a pushcart-nominated writer of speculative fiction. Her stories have appeared in magazines and anthologies, including Dread Imaginings, Pseudopod, and the 2016 World Fantasy Award winning She Walks in Shadows. Upcoming publications include stories in Nightmare, Weird Book, and the Chiral Mad 5 anthology, written backwards. And I assume that's the name of the story, and the anthology itself is not written backwards.
It's the name of the press.
Ah, great. Okay. Thank you. She's also a copy editor for the Deadlands, and she is, of course, co-host of Story Hour. So, Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. I also want to assure you all who are here looking for Amanda J. McGee, she is going to be coming back. She'll be here on June 1st. She just got a sore throat today, so I'm reading instead. And I'm actually kind of excited about the timing for this, because this story is going to be in Weird Book in late spring, probably either end of this month or beginning of the next. I'm not totally clear on the publishing schedule. And it's very exciting to have such a story with such venerable characters and such a venerable publication. I do have content warnings for childbirth, death, gore, and consumption of human flesh.
Oh, what's not to like?
Yeah, but that's not technically cannibalism in this case. Yeah, that's a spoiler. So this story is called A Wise and Patient Mother. Even before the other wise woman told me, I knew this son would be a hero. He was a huge baby, bigger than any of my others. To distract myself from the pain of birthing, I bit down on a tree limb and dug my fingers into the sweet earth to clench fistfuls of dirt and stone. The youngest wise woman tried to catch him, for bathing children in clean water was her work, but he was strong. He turned over and crawled alongside me. He was still smeared with blood and earth when he found my teats and began to suckle. I believe this one will do what Grendel could not, he said. I believed it too, but I wanted to hear more. Though the youngest wise woman was clever and quick and supple as a sapling, she was ever as green as that sapling's wood. She was a creature of potential, not experience. The oldest wise woman saw all things with her 3 white eyes. He is the last champion for 1,000 years, she said, voice rasping like stone against stone. He is our best hope against the kindling folk. The kindling folk's bodies were thin as the sticks they used to start the fires they loved. They used fire to soften their food so their dull teeth could eat it, fire to clear out our forests for their fields. They tore stones from our earth, cut the living trees from our forests, sullied our water with their filth. How could creatures with such useless teeth have such insatiable appetite? I will raise him to be the greatest hero this world has ever known, I swore. He will drive the kindling folk from our land, and the earth will flourish in the care of bee and bird, worm and wolf, and us, who came before all. I did not name him. My children find their own names. I fed him milk from my teats and blood from bears. As he grew cleverer, the oldest wise woman taught him to find his way above the earth and within it. As he grew bigger, the youngest wise woman gave him tree limbs to thrash about, then tree trunks, then trees entire. As he grew stronger, I taught him to seize a boulder with one hand and throw it over a mountain. When we were not teaching him, I watched to see what he would do, and I waited. After he'd grown enough to cross a river in one step, he visited the kindling folk's towns. He brought back meat for us, whole and hairy, its lungs like the wings of birds. The oldest wise woman said that this was because the kindling folk could breathe nothing but air. This made a kind of sense. Fire makes its meals of wood, but it is air that feeds its appetite. One day he brought back more than gifts. I'm called Idred, he said, for when I bash in the roofs of their buildings, they run and cry in fear. Do not let the kindling folk name you, I begged him then, the only time I've ever begged. No good can come of it. Have you heard the names they call your wise women? They call us children of Cain, though he was a monster of their folk and not ours. They call the oldest hag, the youngest witch, and me they call troll. But he called himself Idred from then on. One day, the kindling folk sent forth a champion of their own, a man less twig-like than the rest. The oldest wise woman saw fire in his soul. It burned with his longing to prove himself by conquering fear, by conquering my son Idred. No man of the kindling folk was as strong as Idred, and so they stole from my stone children to craft a weapon to use against him. They stripped the shining blood from the veins of rock, and they used their fire to harden it. The bright thorn they fashioned was harder than stone and sharper than green. Idred stood in the clearing, tossing a tree from hand to hand, waiting for his challenger. I waited behind him. Although the champions were to fight alone, a mother must always watch. At last the kindling man bumbled out of the woods, wearing a skin of fire-hardened stone's blood, bright and brittle as an insect. The sight of Idred, tall and strong and broad, drove him back a step. It would have taken half a dozen of him to reach Idred's height. Then he signaled to his own folk, and they removed the bright carapace from him. He was just meat then, tiny and exposed, with the shining thorn in his hand. One blow would crush him. Idred roared and swung his tree. The kindling man danced backward and the swing went wide. Lucky for him, I laughed. Idred paced, letting his feet fall more heavily, creating gusts that stirred the dry leaves and drove the watchers back in fear. He shifted the tree to his other hand as he lunged, and he brought the club crashing down at the kindling man. But when the tree crashed against the ground, the kindling man was not there. He was running full tilt toward Idred, thorn sheathed and head down. When Idred lifted the tree and saw neither meat nor blood in its splintered branches, he did not see the tiny man heave his bright thorn across the place where one boulder white foot joined to one mighty leg. Idred roared again, this time in pain, and he fell to one knee. "Rise!" I screamed. "He is a dry twig, and you are a mountain!" The kindling man darted out, fast as fire without his stone-split skin, and he drove the thorn into Idred's wrist. Idred growled like an avalanche and dropped the tree, his hand hanging loose. I saw the dark blood gush from hand and foot, and I cried out. But Idred was hale and doughty. He flung the kindling man through him, and the thin limbs spun in the air until the kindling man landed on the ground, skidding in the leaves and tumbling over himself. If it had not been for the leaves, the fall might have been enough to finish him. Idred could not stand, could grasp a weapon in only one hand, so he made himself a log and rode toward the kindling man to crush him. The thorn was stuck in his wrist, and he grunted as the weight of his own unstoppable body drove it further in. The kindling man lay hunched, unmoving. I sucked in my breath and waited for Idred to roll past that place, leaving bloody ruin behind. When Idred neared him, the kindling man rolled in a different direction. Instead of crushing the thin limbs with his scaly shoulders, Idred half rose with the kindling man clinging to the tangles of his hair. He reached up to bat him away with one hand. It was the wrong hand. The kindling man seized the thorn, wrested it free, and drove it into Idred's eye. When Idred fell this time, he did not rise again. I screamed until the earth shook and a river burst its banks. It tumbled Idred's body to pieces, and I was glad it denied the kindling folk their trophy. His head would adorn no one's house. I had lost my grandson Grendel and his mother, my watery daughter, to one champion of the kindling folk. To another, I had lost Idred. My wise women and I were losing the rivers, the forests, the stones, the very earth to these invaders. I retreated underground, and I slept for a long time. The kindling folk spread across the land, consuming all in their path. They erected taller buildings with sharper corners. They poured new kinds of filth into the water. The land bristled with shining man-made forms. In my sleep, I birthed new children. The green children who survived were tough, greedy vines. The water children, poisonous and strange. The children of earth and stone were as mighty as ever, but they, too, became sly as they grew around the thorns. I do not know what wisdom is left to guide them. The youngest wise woman has grown thin and forgetful, the oldest blind in all her eyes. I have slept too long, and my veins are clotted with poison and anger and fear. I do not know which of my children will be the next hero. Perhaps a forest child will snake roots into their buildings, collapsing them from inside. Perhaps he will snatch up trees and club down all he finds. Perhaps a son of stone will roll from the mountains and crush them all. Perhaps a water daughter will wash away their towns, then pull each of them under and drown their weak lungs that understand only air. Perhaps a daughter of earth will open her maw and swallow towns whole, returning metal and sand and stone to their home. All I know is that the 1,000 years they spent, and we will come for the land that is ours. I watch and I wait. Thank you.
That was great. I really love the mythic element and scope. And I love the way you read. Really lovely work. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's our custom to just pause a minute, chill, let the work that's just been read resonate with us. Yes, thanks, Cliff. Right, exactly. So we're going to do that. Just we'll be quiet for a minute or so. For folks on Facebook who can't see the Zoom chat, Laura has just been made a offer to be hired to do somebody's audiobook. No, kind of kidding, but all right, on with the show. Mina Li is a Taiwanese American author, born and bred in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a fine town. More of her work can be seen in An Alphabet of Embers, Kaleidotrope, Robot Dinosaurs, and the upcoming Remapping Wonderland, classic fairy tales retold by people of color. When she's not writing, she likes to cook, knit, and take springtime walks in her neighborhood. Mina first appeared in Story Hour back in January 2021. So, Mina, welcome back, and the floor is yours.
Thanks. Just one slight correction. I was actually born in Detroit, but it kind of doesn't count that much anyway, since I moved to Ann Arbor when I was 2. But yeah, basically, yeah, I was born in Detroit. But other than that, like, I've pretty much been in Ann Arbor since toddlerhood, or yes, either way, Michigander. Yes, I would agree, very much so. Pretty much will always be a Michigander, no matter what at this point. So this is my story, Miss 49 Days. It was published in Translunar Traveler's Lounge around August of 2021, which, for those of you who are Chinese or Chinese diaspora, that is around Ghost Month. And Ghost Month, to the best of my knowledge, since we don't celebrate it at home, I don't celebrate it in my family, is when the ghosts return from the dead for maybe 1 month or so to visit their family. And it's also the only time they can actually eat. This story was not actually written inspired by Ghost Month, but a lot of Chinese readers noted the, noted the timing and commented on it. And that brings me to today, because yesterday was Qingming, also known as the Tomb Sweeping Festival. And what we usually do around that time is we go to the ancestors' tombs and we sweep them. We put out offerings, we have picnics. I guess it's similar to All Saints, except I don't think there's anything really scary or haunting about Qingming. It's just all like, lovely springtime, an occasion to have a picnic outside and just really remember your ancestors. So that's the occasion. That's the reason I chose this date. And so here we go. It's 49 days. I'd started cooking my first meal in the kitchen, corn soup with egg, when suddenly I felt a light hand on my shoulder. I turned around, and there was the previous owner of my new house, standing right behind me as if she hadn't died the week before. "What you making there, honey?" she asked, cheerful and energetic, blue eyes large and curious in her pale, wrinkled face. The lipstick on her mouth was the same ketchup red as the photos her son had shown me. I screamed, dropping the can of creamed corn, where it splattered all over the pristine wooden floor. Your son said you died. Of course I'm dead, you silly girl, she told me. She laughed as I stood there, trying to take some deep breaths, as if my screams and mess were uproariously funny, and not a reasonable reaction to finding ghosts in my kitchen. Once I could find words again, I asked, "How are you even here if you're dead?" "He didn't tell you about this place." She peered out, shading her eyes with a naughty blue-veined hand. The new lamp they'd hung in the dining room during remodeling caught her eye, and she frowned. "Not that I recognize it. All this gray and silver." "No, he didn't say anything." She gestured expressively about the kitchen. "It's the house. People who just passed find their way over and stay for a while. Built at a crossroads, you know. They say it's between worlds." This was making me dizzy, so I slowly sat on the ground, trying to avoid the corn puddle. Neither the son nor the realtor had mentioned this. "That sounds kind of scary." "Oh no, hon, not at all. They're newly dead, and this place is the last stop before they move on. They come here to rest up, gather their bearings a little." She pointed at herself, eyes twinkling merrily. "I'm dead, aren't I?" Yes, she was dead. Very dead. This shouldn't be happening, but it was, and at least she was a friendly ghost. Maybe that meant ghosts in general weren't the horror movie kind, but ordinary, like her. "So, you just need to rest up a bit before moving on." She threw her head back, showing off her yellow teeth as she laughed. "You got it. See, it's not so bad." I figured, well, the new owner's probably moved in. Better tell her about the ghosts. So here I am. "I see." The pot began to clatter, having reached a strong boil. "Oh, the soup." My phone vibrated in my apron pocket as I jumped to my feet. It was Mom, with a text that read, "Not feeling well today. Please pick up my heart medication at the pharmacy. Thanks. Come over tomorrow and we can eat beef noodles." The old woman shook her head, still chuckling. "Never thought I'd be the ghost dropping by," she said, leaning over to look at the stove. "What's that you got anyway?" "Oh," I said, turning down the heat. "It's a Chinese corn soup with egg. It was the first soup Mom taught me how to make, when she started making me stay in the kitchen to watch her cook dinner, like Blackwell had done with her before." She nodded approvingly. "Sounds delicious. I'll have a bowl of that if you don't mind." And that was how it all started. In Chinese mythology, there's an old woman in the underworld that's always stirring a big pot of soup. When you die, you drink it to forget everything that happened in your life, so that you can move on to the next one. It's a story they taught us in Chinese school when we were kids. I think about it when I'm making my soups, whether it's from scratch or just dumping in something from a can. That strange parallel between me, a not quite young woman up here in the living world, with her down below, both stirring away at our bubbling pots. Most leave before the 49 days are up. There was a kid once, though, who died a few days short of her 16th birthday, when the skies were gray and the trees had shed their leaves. I'd fed her some grilled cheese and tomato soup, and she told me her story between tear-soaked sips. She died in her sleep. The doctor said there was something wrong with my heart. Can you believe that? She sobbed. I was on the goddamn soccer team. That's impossible. We had so much cool stuff planned for my birthday. Then there was winter formal, and I was going to go with Bobby Garcia from Chem. I'd sympathized. I'd been glad to graduate high school and move on to university. But when I was old enough to be nostalgic for my teens, when so much life lay ahead, it was never easy when dead kids came into my kitchen. On some level, they knew that they were never going to have the rich multitude of experience like their friends and classmates. The rules are rules, and she had to move on, either to stay in the afterlife or to be reborn. I did what I could to ease the passing, from celebrating her 16th birthday with funfetti cake to one final drive around her neighborhood to say goodbye. When day 49 became day 50, she started to fade. She was standing in the sun, her tan skin went transparent, only to reappear when the clouds rolled in. By day 57, she passed through everything from water to wood, the way the wind moved through trees before a thunderstorm. You have to move on, I told her. I tried to touch her shoulders, but my hands only found empty air, even though she was standing in front of me. No, it's not fair, she howled, long brown hair whipping about her face. The windows rattled, punctuated by the clatter and smash of dishes from the kitchen. It's almost Christmas. I want to stay. I know, I said, but you've stayed past 49 days. Your form's degrading, and you're beginning to lose yourself. If this kept going, all that would be left was rage and sadness, and there was no moving on from that except for exorcism. I'd started carrying salt on me since day 50. The peachwood sword I'd bought in line hadn't arrived yet. I should have gotten it earlier, because I'd been hosting the dead for some time and I needed protection. But with Mom and her worsening heart condition, it had fallen by the wayside. I really wish I had it now. If it'd been in the house, things would have been so much easier. The ghost began to fade out again, but I still felt her rage, thick and choking. If you don't move on, I said, trying to keep my voice even, I'll have to exorcise you. Exorcised ghosts disappear forever. There's no afterlife for them. She bared her teeth, green eyes flashing all fury. I don't care. Everyone else acts like I'm gone anyway. My hand clenched around the bag of salt in my pocket. You're just dead for now, but if you move on, you can be reborn. You'll get another chance to have a 16th birthday, to go to winter formal, to grow up. It won't be the same, she said. Tears were running down her face, vanishing like smoke when they landed. A crack appeared on the sliding glass door next to me with a loud pop. I know. I'm sorry. It's not fair. It's better than disappearing forever, though. And I'll have to make you disappear if you keep staying. Keeping eye contact with her was hard, but I tried. I can't tell you if your next life will be better than this one, I continued, but you won't find out if you don't move on. She was quiet for a while. It felt like years, standing there with her, my breath aching in my chest. Then she swallowed, and one last sob broke from her as the crack on the sliding glass door spread further out. Okay. Her voice was small and shaky, and her hands were balled into fists. Okay, I'll go. Then it was just me, standing in my living room, and the only draft I felt was the cold air coming in from my broken sliding glass door. I still don't get it, the newly arrived ghost said, bewilderment all over their dark umber face. How did the plane crash? Everything was supposed to be fine. I put a bowl of lotus root soup, steaming hot, on the woven straw placemat in front of them. Yeah, that sounds awful, I said. You'd think the airline would have done a better job making sure everything was safe. They sat up, their gaze on me intense, their glittery purple eyeliners smudged from crying. I know, right? There was a documentary about how you were safer on a plane than in your own bathroom, for God's sake. They picked up their chopsticks, poking morosely at a chunk of pork floating in the bowl of soup. My wife, she's devastated, no doubt about it. We have a kid on the way, our first one. She was looking forward to us being a family, you know. Now I'm dead, and she's going to be here alone, with our kid. They hung their head, long locks hiding their face from view. I wish I could see her one last time. I felt like I could do nothing but let the silence stretch between us. Yeah, I finally said, I'm sorry. The ghost looked up at me, brown eyes large and sad. There's no way you can make that happen, can you? Sometimes there's stories about how there's one last visit from the dead to their loved ones just to say goodbye. I shook my head. I wouldn't know how to make it happen. My mind drifted to Mom then, saying that. I remembered what the doctor had told me, how much time she had left. A year, probably, maybe a year and a half. When she died, would I be able to see her? The ghost sighed, deflated. Should have figured they were just stories. Guess this is the only place where anyone can see me then. The last stop between Earth and the afterlife, right? That's right. I ladled up my own bowl of soup. And you'll have to move on to the afterlife eventually. I can't stay here, they asked plaintively. I sat down across from them, picked up my own chopsticks. You have 49 days from the date of your death to stay here. After that, it's not good for you to stay longer. I thought about the fading, the broken windows, the unbearable weight of sorrow and fury. After I'd hung the peachwood sword in my home, there hadn't been any more problems. Damn. They blinked, wiping tears furiously away with one hand. I hate this. I hate this so much. I'm not supposed to be dead. I was about to get a family of my own, for God's sake. I didn't think I'd ever have that. Just when I was about to make it. It was never easy dealing with situations like this. I really am sorry, I said. It's not right that you had to lose all of that. I didn't know what I could say to make it better, and I hated myself for it at that moment. There was an uneasy silence as I tried to eat. Finally, they asked, 7 weeks, right? That's 49 days. My soup was cooling. I took a large gulp so I didn't have to reheat it. Yep. They sighed, twisting a ring, a simple gold band around a bony finger. My wife's due in a month. Am I stuck here? Can I see her before I move on? There was an oily sheen on the soup's surface threatening to congeal. My internal mom voice was nagging me to microwave it already. You can, I said warily, but she won't be able to see you. Nobody can, except me. That's fine, they said. Actually, it's not, but I'll take it. I could say the same about Mom, I thought. Later that night, as I ladled soup for her into a container, making sure there was plenty of pork. I wondered how many times the two of us could share food with each other. An incredibly famous politician came here after he died. He'd been around for decades, a fixture in history and in the Capitol. His speeches and interviews were so riveting that you couldn't help but absorb every word, filled with hope and fire in every syllable, no matter whether you were watching on the couch or listening with a half an ear over the stove. Everyone was moved by his optimism, his kindness, his visions in the country's and humanity's potential for greatness. I'd known he'd been ailing for some time. Even without official statements, it was easy to tell he was weakening as the months passed, his life draining out bit by bit. He moved with more care. He was growing thinner, and a pallor settled into his face. It reminded me, grimly, of Mom. When I heard the news that he'd passed on a crisp, cool autumn morning, it came as a foregone conclusion. It was surprise, though, finding his stout figure leaning on my kitchen counter a few days later, right as I was starting dinner. My, that smells good, he said. What is it? His appearance was still haggard, and sallowness lingered in his cheeks, once a rich sienna. Instead of his usual suits, he was in a worn bathrobe over a t-shirt and pajama bottoms. But his deep brown eyes looked a bit brighter than before, no longer clouded with pain. I stirred the frying onions in my red Dutch oven a little more, then added both roasted and raw garlic cloves, more than what the recipe called for. Garlic soup. I'm getting over a cold, but there's enough for two if you'd like some. More than enough, as I was going to take some to Mom. She liked the soup, even if she complained about the richness of the cream and butter. He tilted his head at me quizzically, scratching at the gray stubble on his chin. Can I eat even if I'm dead? I sprinkled in some powdered sage, which also was a deviation from the recipe, but I liked it better. Hasn't stopped the others. I gestured at the living room. This is going to take a while, so make yourself comfortable. Anything you'd like to drink? You got any Sam Adams? He asked, shuffling toward the couch. I died before I could have one last bottle. He smiled, coming right up. Why am I still here? He asked later, smacking his lips over a spoonful of soup. I thought once we died, it was either heaven, hell, or some afterlife, but staying here on Earth? He shook his head. I scooped up one of the few remaining pasta shells floating in my bowl. When people die, their souls stay here for 49 days. In my culture, we call it Chi-Chi or 7-7. Is that so? He smiled wryly. I guess that makes some sense. Does that make you laugh stop before I move on? Well, that's what the previous owner said, I replied. Well, something like that anyway. She said something about how this place is between worlds, but you can only stay here for 49 days and then you need to move on. He was quiet for a bit, then took another spoonful of garlic soup. So you're missed 49 days then, he said. Somehow, after coming here, I feel a bit better, like everything's going to be all right, even if I'm gone. Well, the news said you died peacefully, at least. I'm sorry, I added quickly, catching myself. It's just that based on what I saw and read, it seemed like you'd accepted things. He laughed ruefully, leaning back in his seat. I did, in the end. You can't run from death forever, but there was so much left to do, whether it was bills to sign, or hearings, or votes. I watched him sip his beer. My doctor kept telling me to slow down, that it could wait until I was feeling better. He shook his head. I was in politics for 30 years, and this doctor was still a kid, not much older than you. The work can't wait, but now I don't have a choice. You sound like my mom. Oh, yeah? I pushed the lone remaining pasta shell around in my bowl. My mom, she's got a serious heart condition, but every time we tell her to rest, or that whatever work she's got to do can wait, she won't listen. She doesn't have much time left, probably a year. Ah, I see, he said. Well, I'm afraid what I have to offer isn't that comforting, even if that's what I was known for while I was alive. He chuckled a little at his own joke. Can't do anything, right? You're not the one with the bad heart. She is. He stirred the cooling soup in his bowl and took another spoonful with a loud slurp. And you can't keep her from death any more than I could keep myself from it. I didn't expect Mom to find her way into my place after she died. Most people appear a day or two after they die, but she took her time coming here, not showing up until after the funeral, after I'd changed out of my black dress, thrown on an apron, and was crying over a Cornish hen in the rice cooker. What's there to cry about, she asked, and what am I doing here in your messy kitchen? I didn't know whether to snap back at her out of familiarity or laugh because death hadn't changed her a single bit, from her graying bob to her old green slippers to that disdainful grimace she now wore. She looked nothing like the woman in the coffin I just buried. Instead, I gestured at the rice cooker and the Cornish hen sitting in the pot full of water. I just got back from your funeral, I said, trying not to choke. I missed you. I thought I'd make the chicken soup you always made, but I don't know how. Then Mom stared at me for a while as the birds chirped outside in the early spring afternoon. Then she sighed, shaking her head. Look at yourself, she said. I kept telling you I wouldn't live forever, remember? Nobody's immortal. I know. I sniffled, feeling my nose run. But never mind. Mom pushed past me. Do you have dried shiitakes? I went ahead and pulled out the jar she'd given me when I first moved in. She opened it and took out a couple. There, you'll need that much. Soak those in water. Where are your scallops? I pointed at the cutting board on the counter where they sat in a pile. Mom immediately tisked. Too many, she snapped. Dried scallops are expensive. They are? Mom waved me off impatiently. Hurry, soak the mushrooms already. I don't know why I'm here, but I'll show you how to make the soup anyway. It's easy. That was Mom getting down to business. There, Mom said as I set our bowl of soup down. That wasn't hard, was it? You're right. It was really easy. Mom looked at me over the steam rising between us with narrowed eyes. You remember how to do it now, right? You can make it by yourself. I picked my chopsticks up, gazing down my bowl to hide the tears. Swallowed to get rid of the lump in my throat. Yeah, I mumbled. Good. Mom visibly relaxed, then picked up her chopsticks too, taking a bite of the drumstick I'd given her. I took a bite out of my own drumstick, and it was like being at the old family table again for dinner, that familiar comfort seeping from my core to my extremities. It was as if Mom was still alive for one brief moment. I was afraid of this, Mom said all of a sudden. Here you are after my funeral and you're upset. You know I didn't want that. I told you so many times not to cry. I couldn't help it, I replied, words sullen. I knew you were going to die. But it's hard when the time came. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I'd managed to get her hospice care so that she could die at home at least. But I'd hoped to be at her side for her last hours. Instead, I'd listened when she told me to go home for the night. And by the time I showed up the next day, she was long gone. Her hands were so cold when I'd held them. I'd sat there for a while, trying to rub the warmth back in before finally calling the hospice nurse. Tears pricked at my eyes as I remembered that moment. It was hard to believe that it had only been last week. Mom sighed. Are you feeling guilty because you weren't there? I don't know. I wanted to be there when it happened, and I wasn't. I wanted to say goodbye, but I couldn't. A tear dropped in my soup, and I wiped my eyes. Well, I'm here now, and your soup is getting cold. Hurry and eat. How are you feeling now? I asked after I'd drunk my reheated soup. Mom tilted her head. Peaceful, she said, slowly. Like all that trouble is finally over. I can relax now. That makes sense, I said. Are you ready to move on then? She nodded, eyes closing. I can hear them, she said, the ones who have already passed. Your father, your grandparents. Some of my old friends, they're calling me. They want me to join them. There was a pregnant silence that hung between us. I let it grow and grow till it threatened to burst and flood the entire room. You're ready to go, except you're worried about me. That's it, right? Isn't it obvious? Mom opened her eyes. I'm ready, but you're not. Mothers can't leave unless they know the children can manage on their own. I hung my head. I tried to prepare, I said. I really did. A loud bang made me jump. It was Mom smacking the table. How can I leave? She snapped, bolting up from her seat. When you're like this, don't you know I'll worry? I can't help it if I'm upset about your death, I yelled. I'm sorry I can't hold it together like you. But you're my mom. What did you expect? You're an adult, she shouted back. Look at yourself. You're supposed to reassure the dead you'll be fine so we can move on peacefully. But you're not fine. And she was right. She was dead. This was the last time I'd ever see her. And I was lucky to have this one last meeting. But here we were, fighting as if she was still alive and well. Do you really mean it? I finally asked. When you tell me you're feeling peaceful, that you're glad that's all behind you now. Yes. Can you really hear Dad and Waipo and Waigong and your friends calling you? Mom's glare still scared me, even in death. Did you think I was spouting nonsense for fun? No, of course not. I took a deep breath and counted the seconds in my head. By 8, I let it out. Okay. If you're at peace and you want to join everyone, I won't stop you. She looked at me warily. Really? Are you going to wail and cry after I leave? No, I blurted. Well, maybe. If you're all right, though, that's fine with me. I'll miss you a lot, but I'll be okay, I promise. Mom stared at me for a long time, like she did during our fights when I was growing up. Then she sighed. I died at 81, she said, sitting back down. What a long life. You really should celebrate that I lived so long. Tears stung my eyes again, and I wiped my face even as she scowled. You're right. That's not easy. Mom was gone the next morning. She'd left me breakfast on the table, a plate of dambing, one of my favorites. She'd probably just left. The scent of frying scallions hung in the air. Next to the plate was a mug of Ovaltine mixed with instant coffee and condensed milk. Still warm, something I used to drink every morning before I went to catch the school bus. I could feel the tears coming as I took it all in. Then I remembered she was on her way to all the loved ones waiting for her in the afterlife, and I felt at ease, knowing she left this world content. Hurry, eat before it gets cold, I could hear her saying, so I sat down, picked up the chopsticks thoughtfully left beside the plate, and did just that. As I ate, I remembered there was still leftover soup from the night before. I almost didn't want to finish it because it was my last memory of Mom. But now I could make it whenever I wanted, and soon that would be all I needed whenever I missed her. The end. And I apologize because I think I forgot to put in parental death as a trigger warning.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
That one kicks me in the tear ducts every time.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised over how much impact it's had on folks, but that's probably because I've been hanging out with the story in different incarnations for the better part of a year. And what really pulled it up, what wound up pulling it together was people going, maybe we should have the mom be more of a character. And So what happened was that I kind of had to eventually pull through my adult fear of the pandemic and possibly losing my mom to it. And, you know, of course, for the record, my mom is alive and well. Still trying to persuade her to get that second booster. Because she doesn't think she needs it, but she's otherwise, still much stronger than I am in ways that I never actually thought possible. So,
Well, my mom passed a few years back, and the story really, really just moved me. So thank you.
mm,
Wow, another wonderful evening at Story Hour. I want to thank both of our authors, Mina Li, Laura Blackwell, and next week we have Zan Van Rooyen and Mike Allen. So please come back. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
night night.